I am so excited that my guest today is Sue Sternberg, who has been one of my heroes in the dog world for a long, long time. And I was asking her, like, I don't even really know how to introduce you. So I awkwardly told her that I was going to ask her to introduce herself. So, Sue, tell us who you are and what you do.
I've been working in the field of animal sheltering and also as a dog trainer since 1981. And dogs, I knew I was going to be a dog trainer since I was 8. That's all I know. I feel like I'm more of an expert on shelter dogs, but shelter dogs are just dogs at a certain point in their life, or I mean, certainly some dogs never end up in the shelter. So I like to study body language in dogs.
You've taught me so much about body language in dogs over the years. It's really been an amazing gift that you've given the world. And the word that I asked you to discuss with me today is discovery,
Yeah.
because you have a lot of passion around learning new things. And you've certainly discovered, for lack of a better word here, a lot of things about dog body language and behavior that have always been there, but we didn't know how to pinpoint and identify and say that has value, that is important. What do you think drove your curiosity in this field?
I've always been interested in body language. And before video, I worked at the ASPCA in New York City in the mid 80s. I had my camera and I took slides of everything. And then I started putting together little presentations for the volunteers at the ASPCA using the slides. And then as soon as video became a little bit more accessible, I started videotaping. And I think it's the slides and the videos that got me interested in body language, because I always look at my videos, I review everything, and then you start to see patterns.
Mhm.
And you can slow it down and see patterns. You can speed it up and see different patterns. And I feel like it's not the videos that taught me what to look for. And then, of course, you look at 10,000 dogs doing the same thing, and you can see the common responses, the outliers, and you can start making correlations. You see
Mhm.
this because but I feel like it's just through video, and that's of course my teaching medium. If I can show somebody a video and slow it down, anyone else can see it, right? Like you don't have
Yes.
to have been studying it for 40 years. If somebody just shows you the slow-mo video, kind of it's ours to share and
Mhm.
learn and understand, or try to understand dogs better.
It's such a powerful tool because we can back it up and see it again, and then
Yeah.
back it up and see it again, where it's like,
Yes.
"Did you see that? No, I did not. Show me again." Whereas with a real dog right there in person, they're not gonna do it again. You're like,
No. And by
"I
the
wanna
by
see
the
that."
time you point it out, it's gone.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
yeah. It's such a
Yeah.
powerful tool for that.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting to have been doing that for so long, like, to have gone from your slides to your video. Were you deliberately trying to teach body language initially when you were doing the slides, or were you just kind of teaching just regular, like, how to work here stuff, like, there happens to be a
No,
dog in this picture?
I was collecting slides of interesting mixes and purebreds in the shelter
Ah,
in New York City. And then I was using Dr. Leon F. Whitney's book, How to Breed Dogs, because he has a lot of photos in there of known crosses. He bred two separate purebreds together, and he studied inheritance of vocalization during hunting, or ear length or leg length or whatever. And I found his book fascinating. And then there was no internet in the 80s. Maybe there was. I didn't use it, but so it was like books. And but in reviewing my slides from the 80s, I look back and I'm like, what was temperament like back then? Like, were there as many dangerous dogs back then? Were there as many borderline gray area dogs? Or how many really sweet, easy dogs were there in the 80s in New York City at animal control? And so I can go back and look at that. So I just did it for my own hobby. It was just fun to capture the dogs that were there, that I knew, that I assessed, that I was looking at. And then my friend at the time was head of volunteers at the ASPCA, and she's like, I want to do volunteer training, and I want you to put together some fun, education for the volunteers. And I was like, I can't do that. I can't possibly speak in public or anything. but I put together these like fun, that's when I put together a little slideshow of like weird crossbreeds, because there were dogs that I took photos of there. You looked at them, you're like, oh my God, that's half rough collie, half basset hound, you know, without a doubt. Like, you do not need a DNA test, which there weren't any back then. You just see both breeds at the same time. So I did that. And then I just started doing weird other things. I think it was the breed thing. What kind of dog is that?
Yeah.
That was, I think, American Humane Association, which is no longer, it used to be a big one of the national organizations. They invited me to their conference in 1994 or something. And they asked me to do that one, like how to figure out what breeds and crossbreeds. And, and that kind of started me talking and putting together slideshows.
And that was the beginning of a lot, because you definitely do a lot of public speaking and don't seem to have any problem with it any longer.
I don't. And I don't know when that happened. I used to be terrified. And I didn't like consciously work on it. I think I just liked my material and it was fun. And so
I had the same experience. I made it all the way through college, deliberately choosing every class that didn't require anything to be spoken aloud.
Yes.
But a love of dogs will force us to do many things that we thought we couldn't possibly do.
That's right.
Because, oh wait, it's about dogs. Yes. So tell me, when I just say discovery, what does discovery mean to you?
Exploration, to find something that's in front of us, but maybe hasn't been discovered yet. And I feel like it is a universal, maybe biological part of us, or some of us maybe. You know, like I read about Shackleton and other explorers, and I'm like, I could have done that, you know, not like really life-threatening things, but I love the idea of exploring, of finding something. And like, since I moved to Utah in, you know, about 2009, and my hobby out here is exploring places that no one else has. I look for dinosaur tracks and I look for dinosaur bone, and I GPS it and send it to scientists that I know. And it's discovery. I want to discover. I want to go places.
Haven't you?
Yes. I mean, yes. Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Like, dinosaur tracks are so easy to spot. Like, dog behavior is so hard to teach yourself, you know, all the years and years of study. But like, once I sort of learned what to look for and began to study it, I can see those patterns anywhere. And
really?
I'm pretty good at finding them. I think honestly, I think my eye is trained to see dog behaviors. Like my brain has practiced to 10,000 hours of dog behavior or videos or whatever, slowing things down. So for me, like looking at, you know, a rock outcrop, I can see when you're looking for tracks, you're often looking at a pattern, right? Like the non-random footstep pattern. So you might look at a series, you're looking for a series of geometry, or you're looking for a particular shape. And once I started learning the shapes, I've made 2 huge track discoveries from my car looking out the window.
I knew you'd made 1. I didn't know you'd made 2. Tell us about what those dinosaurs were.
I was going to take my friend hiking, and, you know, she's like, I'd like to try and see if we could find dinosaur bones. So I was like, great, you know, and I just picked this random area that had looked fun. It's off a dirt road, public land, no trail. And so I pulled in opposite, off the dirt road, pulled off to park. And when I parked, it was the time of year, the time of day. So it was November, and November, the shadows are low and long, which is really good for track hunting because it you know, illuminates the shadows and you can see tracks better. I didn't know that at the time, but we parked and there was a slab, a big rock that about the size of a VW Beetle that had fallen off a cliff. And as we parked, I looked at it and I saw a pattern, like dimples sticking up out of the rock that had fallen down. And I said to myself, oh my God, that is such a track site. I said, it's so obvious. I'm sure it's already discovered. I'm going to leave it for when we get back to the car and I'll tell my friend about it. We'll go check it out. So we go hiking. We had a great time hiking with the dogs. We didn't find any dinosaur bone. And we get back to the car and I look up and I'm like, oh, hang on, Linda, because there's tracks on that rock and I want to go look at it. And I was like, don't get excited. They're so obvious. This is obvious, and it's right on the road. it's obviously an already discovered site. And we got out, and they were beautiful. They're the kind of tracks that stick up. They're the under tracks, the fill, right? And so the softer layer in which they had put their feet, the indents, the softer layer had weathered away, and what was left was the actual stuff that filled in the tracks. And it was 12 steps. You could see back feet, you could see front feet, you could see claws.
Wow.
I didn't know what kind of dinosaur. And I sat on it for a while because I was like, this is so obvious. This is a known site. And then my friend Linda, while we were looking at that slab, looked down and she found some little three toes, and there was a bunch of stuff around. So I finally sent it to the BLM paleontologist. And, I'm like, oh, I'm sure this is already discovered. And she's like, no one has discovered this, even though the gas pipeline company has put out, had already hired people to survey and search. It turns out it is the longest Stegosaurus trackway in North America. And it is like a profound discovery. Yeah, it was really cool. They published the whole site. And what was amazing is I've been there a dozen times since, and you cannot see the dimples. It was the time of day, the light. I was just there at the right moment.
What a gift. Wow, that is so cool.
It's so cool.
Amazing too that it's there and you know what to look for, and you still have trouble seeing it when you go back.
Yeah, it's not at all like it was that first day. And then on the way driving to that site, there was way up high on another cliff, these circles, like it looked like 3 circles, and not that obvious, but enough that I said to myself, I wonder if those are tracks. And I passed it, I don't know, 5 times. And finally I was like, God damn it, I'm going to pull over and I'm just going to get this out of my system. I'm going to hike up there, and they're either tracks or they're not. And I got up there and they were tracks. And it led to this whole like plateau area of other tracks. It was amazing. It's a significant find.
Wow. Do you know what those ones are, the big circles?
They are some sort of a theropod. And the reason why they look like sauropods are like gentle, slow moving, elephant-like feet, sort of like round tracks. And that's what it looked like from the car. But when I got there, the round thing was the fill. Like there are these 3-toed tracks, and that whatever covered it, the first layer was hard, so it had sort of a pancake covering. And like one of the pancakes had fallen out, and underneath the pancake is the perfect dinosaur track. Anyway, I live for that discovery. I live for, like, it gives purpose to my hiking and purpose to wandering with my dogs. And it's always in areas that I want to go where I don't think anyone has gone except maybe an ancient Puebloan Indian, 1,000 years ago.
Yeah. And how far are those areas from your home now?
Probably I can drive to most of them in 20 to 30 minutes.
Wow. Yeah, I know that like sometimes when you're posting pictures, your dogs can be so far from you, and that just extraordinary scenery. And I think of my little suburban neighborhood with the yards and the people right next door.
It's heaven. It's heaven here. And like, cause my Chappie's reactive. And so I don't like to hike where I might see another dog. And I definitely don't want to hike where somebody might be with an off leash dog. And so, every day I can hike all day with them and never see anyone else. And it's a gift for me. It's a gift for them.
And one of your discoveries is named after you, isn't it?
Yeah, I actually have a couple of sites named after me. And I have a dinosaur skeleton site, not a complete skeleton, that's not named after me, but I don't know if you looked at, I guess, the field records in Utah, my name would be there on a lot of stuff. I have an insect track discovery site, which to me, I sat on that for a long time. Like at the end of this long hike are these smooth brown slabs with little squirmy nematode, where a worm has gone through the sand. And then there's like tiny little, what looked like kind of a water slider. And I sent that to the track expert paleontologist in Denver, and, no one got excited. And I'm like, come on, people, these are 100-million-year-old insect tracks, like the conditions that had to prevail to let these insects. And so I sent it again. And the guy in Denver sent it to an paleoentomologist specialist who said, actually, it is an interesting site because no one has discovered insect tracks in that formation in that particular time period. So we went back and did field work there. That's not published, but I'm sure in a couple of years it will be. So I have like a bunch of places.
That is so cool.
It's just,
What a
I can't
fascinating
tell you,
thing.
it's so much fun.
Because of that, because you've done all of this with the dogs where you dove in and learned all of that, and then you've taken it now into your Utah world and discovering everything about dinosaurs here. How has that changed you? What does this do for you?
I don't know. I think I'm an obsessive person, or I can be, and so I'm obsessed with dinosaur tracks and bone and finding them. And I don't know. I look forward to it every day. Obviously, like I can't because of my knee right now. I can't go out on these hikes for another couple of months. But there's snow on the ground, so I'm a little limited. So I'm happy about that. And we need the water. Like I want to make a paleontological difference in the world as well. I want to make a difference in the dog world. Obviously, that's been my whole life. But now I'm like, I also want to make a contribution to paleontology with my discoveries. I want to give purpose to my wanderings. And I don't know, it just makes me so utterly happy. And then I'm sharing it with my dogs. So the joy is being shared. And I can see what they gain from being out there, just interacting with the natural world in as safe a place as you could imagine. You know, it's just, there's no cars, there's no people, there's no other dogs. There are really no snakes to worry about out here. We don't have enough water.
How often
Yeah.
do you get to do it when your knee is cooperating?
Every day. I have to bargain with myself to get actual other work done because the allure of going out is so great. And then I'm limited in June or July and August when it's just so hot. So then I can only go out early in the mornings, and then I'm forced to work on my, other things during the other parts of the day. But otherwise, if I can get out every single day, I will. And like I'll drive out to a place where I want to explore, and on the way I'm like, look at that ridge. Remember that I want to explore that ridge. And it's out. There's literally hundreds of thousands of acres of public land out here. It's just heaven, and endless exploration.
How do you remember where you've been and where you haven't been?
Oh, here's the beauty. Here's the beauty of Utah. Why it's such perfection out here. It's all open desert. So like, I'm from upstate New York. I've lived in New England. I'm notorious for getting lost, right? Because up there it's all trees and the paths, there's this. And out here, I've gotten lost a couple of times, but never really lost. Like, first of all, you can literally see for 50 miles. And so if you're ever even unsure where you are, climb to the highest place and you can see your car, or you can see the airport, or you can see, some landmark where you know where you are. And that's the beauty of it. Like it's really hard to get lost. And I have been a little bit lost with the bad panicky feeling, but I'm never that far. And I go alone most of the time. So I always let a friend know where I am. And, but it's not scary in that way. And it's like in New York State, we had to worry about rattlesnakes. We had to worry about black bears. And there were deer everywhere for the dogs to chase.
Mm-hmm.
And out here, like maybe there's mountain lions, but they're not habituated at all to people. And they're not really a threat where I go hiking. There's hardly any snakes where I go hiking because there's no water. And it's, there's nothing out there stalking me or trying to kill me. And there's no coyotes packing up for the dogs. There's just, it's safe. It's so open. It's so beautiful. And it's still relatively unexplored. I feel so grateful to be here.
Yeah, it sounds absolutely amazing. My son was stationed at Hill Air Force Base in Utah, which is north of Salt Lake City. And so my only experience with Utah is like Salt Lake City and a little bit north. But I remember being in Salt Lake City and just telling him I felt like I was on the moon. Like the geography was so different to me than the East Coast where I live.
Yep.
That I was just walking around with my mouth hanging open. So I can't even
Yeah.
imagine being like where you are, where it's even more spread out and
Yeah.
more like that. It's just extraordinary and
Yeah.
gorgeous, but awe-inspiring and a little unsettling for me at first. I mean,
But
he
for a
just
lot
kept
of people,
laughing at me. He was like,
no,
"It's
but
not that weird,
it
mom." Like, "It is."
it is. And it is unsettling, particularly for people from the East, because you can't process the distance the cars are. It's you have to get used to it. It's
Yeah.
amazing. So it is literally unsettling.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you say that because he was laughing at me considerably. Apparently, he just landed there and thought that was fine. And I was like, "Oh my gosh."
Well, most East Coast people are like, I don't understand. I've never seen this much open space without an ocean. Like
Yeah.
that's our point of reference, right? In the East.
Yes. Yes, and
Yeah.
I do think for many of us from the East Coast, and I think this is actually hardwired, that we feel a sense of peace and expansion when we can see at a distance, which
Yes,
is
I
why we
agree.
love mountaintops or going over a hill where you just go
You
like,
bet.
I can see so far, and then it goes away into the trees or whatever, and
Yes.
it's very interesting,
Yes.
physical sensation, at least for me, when I can actually
Yeah.
have that sudden moment of discovery, actually. I mean, that's what
It
it is.
is.
It's sort of like
It
I can
is.
actually see. That's
Yeah.
so cool. Oh, so fun. Um, okay, so you have lots of passions, and when you said about like forging into the unknown, it made me actually think of Star Trek
Yes.
and
Yeah.
Discovery.
Yeah.
And you also are an accomplished fiddleist, correct? Like you
I play
do all
fiddle.
the
Yeah.
things. Um, so so these are like all parts of your personality, which you described as obsessive. I won't, but we'll but do you see connections between some of these various areas, or do you see them as distinct?
Oh, that's interesting. I think I must see them as distinct because I have a hard time toggling between them, I think.
Mm,
Like when I'm playing my fiddle, I'm either playing my fiddle every day, and learning new tunes, or I'll go through periods for months where I'm not playing at all. And I'm not a fiddler then. Then I'm a paleontologist or uh, an artist, or I don't really consider myself an artist, but I do like painting.
mhm.
um but I think I have trouble quickly switching hats, so I must see them pretty um separate, although I think they all come from the same core. Maybe it is exploration and discovery, right? Creative, something new. Did you hear about the monolith that was
Yes.
discovered in you? And it bothered me at first. I knew it wasn't an alien. I knew it was human made. Um, but what bothered me about it was, it looked pretty early on that it was some artist putting, their thing out there, and then quickly in the area, people found out the GPS coordinates, and then people flocked there and they pooped and they left their litter. It was disgusting, and they had to remove it. But what broke my heart was, I'm like, why would anyone look at any place around here and say, I want to put something beautiful there? Like, it is already so beautiful.
Mhm.
Every footstep is a museum of just not just natural history, but of beauty. Like the rocks that are on the ground here, the formations, it's a staggering beauty. The thought that one would have to put a work of art out there,
Yeah.
it didn't sit right with me. And so I don't remember why I got, but I find it just beautiful out here every day, every sunrise, every sunset, just amazing.
Yeah, and there's
With
such
the
power with that.
Yeah.
In the VIA character strengths, it's 25, 24 or 25 character traits, and you can sort of sort them by which ones are your top ones. And one of them is the appreciation of beauty and excellence. And with some of my clients who have had that, they're like, "Well, like what good is that?" And I'm like, "Oh wow,
Uh,
because you're the person who can walk around going, do you see? That's the photographers of the world, and the
Yeah.
paleontologists, and the people who can see the patterns, and people who can
Yes.
appreciate all of these things. And it's not one of my top 5. It's one of the ones that I really admire in others, where I
Mhm.
I see that I enjoy spending time with somebody who has that gift, because they show me things I hadn't seen before, and they give me a new shift, a new perspective, and so I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And I think your point about the monolith being not an improvement, like,
Yeah.
you had beauty and then you added to it.
Yes.
Why?
Yeah.
And
It
and
didn't.
why do we flock to that then? Like, the new thing
Right.
that's here is not an improvement. Why weren't you coming here anyway?
No. No.
So if somebody was talking to you and they said, "Well, I think that's amazing that you do all of this creative stuff and you have so many outlets and passions." I don't have any outlets or passions. I just kind of do my work and go home and watch Netflix. What would you suggest is like a way to stick their toe in and do some discovery?
I think people say things like, "Oh, well, I could never learn to play an instrument. I'm not musical," or I would never take an art class because I'm not artistic. And I'm like, that's only if you think you have to be good at something. Like that's not the end goal, right? But especially for dog people, because it's so hard to. It's so great to work with dogs, and it's so hard as well. Like sheltering is not the easiest job. Doing rescue, it's not. There's moments of intense gratitude and feeling good, but it can be hard. We should all be taking lessons. Like people should routinely sign up to learn to do something they don't know how to do, or and not because you're like, well, I'm going to learn how to draw because I think I have a talent. You learn to draw so that you're there in the position of not knowing how to do it, and you're there being taught, and you're there um, to feel that sort of vulnerability, the frustration, and
Mhm.
because you'll never know if you're good or not. And it doesn't really matter. You'll never know if you find peace in the drawing. You'll never know if something, and very often it's just one instructor, one teacher who is so inspiring that you're like, I want to try, I want to do this. So I don't know, lessons in doing something. And I think creativity is what's really important, because I think it forces you to give up on some perfection or final product. Like even cooking, like just cook. um Cooking is a huge creative outlet. You can start out by following the recipes, but then after you do, I don't know, maybe you make 10 pound cakes, and maybe on the 11th you're like, I wonder if, you
Mhm.
know um and so just to do things outside of your own sphere in particular, I think it's really important. And I also think, so learning anything, do not be stopped by whether you've told yourself you're good at something or not, or whether you think you have 2 left feet or not, whatever. Like just go out there and try things. I had no interest in paleontology when I moved out here. I
Really?
like none. Never. I was never the like kid who knew dinosaurs. Um, I loved rock collecting. I love colorful rocks, and so I definitely did that. And then I just sort of got curious. Like somebody had picked up a rock once and said they thought it was a dinosaur bone, and then I just became curious, and now it's a passion. If I just told myself the story that I didn't like dinosaurs or I wasn't interested in paleontology, I wouldn't have done that.
And I love the idea of letting go of being good at it. Like, just
Oh
do it
yeah.
for the experience and just
Yes.
not try to be good at it. That actually brought to mind a memory when you were talking about that many years ago, and I honestly don't remember how many, probably at least 15, you had written a book, and I was at a conference and I bought your book. And a dog trainer I was with also bought your book. And she was like, let's go have Sue sign our books. And I said, no, she has a long line. And that's, no, I don't want to be a problem. I don't bother her. And she was like, come on, come on. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. No. So she took my book, and she comes back to me and gives me my book. And when I open it up, it says, Colleen, be brave, Sue Sternberg. And I was like, what did you say to Sue Sternberg about me? And she said, I told her that you wouldn't come with me because you're too shy to come talk to people. was mortified. And yet I have never forgotten. Be
Oh,
brave, like try something new. Be brave enough to try something. So thank you for that, because
you're
I
welcome.
haven't been a person who's just dives into new things and tries new things. I've always been the one who's like, well, I don't know if I'm gonna like that.
Yeah.
I think but I was so embarrassed that she had gone up there and outed me as being like the wimp back there in the
Great.
corner. But I also didn't want to trouble you in any way. Like, oh no, no,
I
no, no.
get that too. I understand that, but never feels that way on my end.
Yeah, it's so funny how some of these things go full circle, but I do love, well, first off, thank you for that, because I have not forgotten it. I mean, as you can tell, I have
That's
not
interesting.
forgotten. Colleen, be brave! Exclamation point. And I have taken many, many difficult, brave actions since then. And they've all been hard.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
there's that discovery that, like, ooh, I
Yeah.
wonder. I'd like to learn more about that, which is so, so cool.
Yes.
It's been really exciting to me to listen to the passion with which you talk about the things that you love. And that, I think, lights everyone up when someone loves something just to love it.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't have to have a purpose or a value. You like
Right.
going out whether you find the tracks or not. You
Yes.
like the
Yes.
experience.
Yes. Yeah. I remember I was with a bunch of musicians, and somebody had a friend who owned a guitar factory, and I had no interest in learning how guitars are made. I mean, it's interesting, but and they were like, come, we have this afternoon free, and we're gonna go and take a tour of the guitar factory. And I was like, okay, I wasn't thinking it was going to be great. And the guitar maker who took us around was so passionate and so proud, and so it was the most amazing afternoon because of him, because of what it all
Mhm.
meant to him, and how much he shared that. And like, I didn't become a guitar maker, I don't play the guitar or anything, but it was such a meaningful afternoon. And that I always think about that. It's like, I asked my nephew who just started college, what classes do you like? And he's trying all these weird classes, and you can hear his interest, in Persian studies or in archaeology. And a lot of it is the professor, a lot of it is just, and you don't know, like, we tell ourselves stories about ourselves, like, oh, I'm not good at math. I always tell
Yeah.
myself that, but I think it's so limiting, right? We just don't know what we could do. It's like with taste. I remember growing up, I hated cooked tomatoes, like anything with tomato sauce I wouldn't eat. And then I don't remember the day, but somehow I must have tried a tomato sauce, and I was like, hey, I like tomato sauce. And then I liked it from thereafter. And it's, I think these things, it's too easy to just think we know ourselves and what we're good at and what we're not, and so we don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. And I like that thought as just a framework of, the best discovery is really discovering who you are and what
Hmm.
you like and what is meaningful and purposeful to you, which is hopefully a lifelong endeavor for all of us.
Yeah.
I love that as a way of kind of centering it. So, if people wanted to learn more about you and your work, how could they do that?
I resurrected an old website, SueSternberg.com, and it has a link to my YouTube channel. So I've got some dog behavior videos on there for free. Um, I did a series of kind of campy, short training training videos for Embark last during the pandemic, during the summer, and I posted them because I was like, oh, I put a lot of effort into these. They're a little ridiculous, but they're there. And my Etsy site, where I have some pendants that I paint and stuff that I apparel, and a link to where you can get books and DVDs, and my email, so people can contact me if they want to contact me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I
SueSternberg.com.
really loved talking to you today about discovery. This was so fun, Sue. I'm so glad that
Oh,
you were able
great.
to do this.
It was great. I so appreciate you having me. Thank you so much.